Ryan in Sacktown as the Kings host the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. The Grizz played last night in Phoenix. They were down big. I mean, they were down big. They came back, but they ended up losing by 2 points. And now after winning, 11 in a row, they've now dropped 2 straight. They lost to the Lakers. They lost last night. But first things first, we've got a lot of NFL football to talk to, and we'll be coming up with Sean Salisbury in just a moment. Hello, everybody, and it's great to welcome in Sean on this Monday. And Sean, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, my man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Let's get right to it. Let's go back in the most recent game. The most recent game was the Cowboys and the Niners, and I've been talking about this for years. To me, Dak Prescott is Derek Carr. There are times he's just going to go wow, like last week in his performance against Tampa, but I just don't see him ever getting to a point where he's able to take a team to a championship. I don't see it. At this point in his career, Sean, he should be better. His interceptions yesterday were just are you kidding me? I mean, and he should have had a third. Dre Greenlaw had it right in his breadbasket right before the 2-minute warning. It should have been a walk-in 6. That can't happen, Sean. It can't happen. Those interceptions cannot happen.
Well, not if you're going to be considered and you want to be, I guess 40 million is 40 million, but not if you want to be considered that guy. I said on my show today, and I said it last week, I said Dak has to prove that he's not Kirk Cousins, who's Derek Carr, who was Jay Cutler in the past, who was Tony Romo. I'm not dogging them. These are all good players, but guys who were really good during the regular season. And there's more of those guys than the Burrows, Brady's. There really is. I mean,
yes, of course.
And the Mahomes. But, if you want to get to the elite, now he's paid to the elite level.
Yep.
And like I said, it's no disrespect. You can be a really good player, never go to a Super Bowl, and have one hell of and go to the Hall of Fame. There's guys who have done it. And Matt Ryan's going to end up there. Phillip Rivers is probably going to end up there. You can do all that, put up great numbers. But if we're asking for the oh my gosh wow factor where there's that guy, no, he's Cousins, who's Carr, who's a group of guys that it's Burrow and Mahomes. And then there's right below them is Allen, and then there's a third tier. And that's all those guys, Lamar Jackson you throw in there, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr. I mean, there's a group of them, and then Purdy's working his way up. We need more evidence of it. And then then there's the next level of guys that are fighting and scratching to stay alive and keep a starting job. So the next one, and then everybody kind of Herbert and those guys fit their way in until they can prove otherwise. Burrow's been in the league 3 years. 1 year's broke, messed up his left leg after he's going for a great rookie year. Comes back against an offense team, takes him to the Super Bowl. They lose, but got him there. Comes back this year and has them a game away from the Super Bowl. Well, there you go. There's the difference in guys who go on the road and take care of their business and don't turn it over, and guys that do. He's different.
You know what? And this isn't like a Dan Marino situation because Dan never won a Super Bowl, but his defense, you can't talk about Dallas's defense in the same breath. See, here's the difference to me. Dallas Cowboys, to me, have a Super Bowl caliber defense, and they needed to play from the quarterback with no turnovers on the road. But his turnovers were so bad. The one before the first half changed the entire complexion of that game around. Talk to me, Sean. You've been there. You study the game. You teach the quarterback position. What is going on with Dak Prescott on those throws? I mean, they were so bad.
When you mentioned Marino, hell, if Marino was on San Francisco in his day, Dan would have got a Super Bowl ring. Shit, they got there because of him, not in spite of him, and that's why. And that's if he'd had just a little more help in certain positions, they'd have won one. Here's the deal with Dak Prescott. After that Monday night game, Grant, I told you I went back and watched the all 22 tape that we got the next day. Mm-hmm. And you remember the touchdown pass he threw to Dalton Schultz down the seam route where he threw it and Schultz went up and caught it? One of his 2 or 3 touchdowns.
Yep.
I was with Joe. We were talking on the show, and I said, that ball, it's supposed to go 1, 2, 3, foot in the ground, throw it. He went 1, 2, 3, sidestep, hitch, and threw it. Fortunately, the window was so big that we don't look at the late part of it. We look at the result. And I said on the fucking show, forgive me, I said, as good as Dak can be, and it's going to look good in the stats, and he played a hell of a game, but I said, but he's late. Even on that, I said, he's going to run into a team. That window's not going to be like that. You cannot throw you saw the comeback on the left sideline, late. You saw a couple of late. And I was asked today on my show, how do you fix it? And I'm going to tell you the best way to fix it. And, when you're holding it long and you're not throwing on time and you're questioning yourself, the only way you can fix it, in my opinion, you can feel good in the preseason, regular season, put up all those numbers, is you have to do it when it matters, under duress and pressure on the road, to convince yourself. I know Dak's a good player. He's a hell of a good guy. The bottom line is he had great success against windows that were college-sized windows on Monday night, and he'll put up numbers. But you see what happens when the mechanics are flawed, but we don't correct them during the good times. They come back, windows closed. I was beside myself. I said, listen, he's a hell of a player, but look how many times he's taken the extra reset to throw. It's going to get him, and I'll be damned if it didn't get him against the 49ers. Here's the windows against Tampa this year. Here's the windows when you're throwing the coffee can-sized windows. And, friend, when you throw a comeback, 1, 2, 3, take a hitch and throw it before it comes out of his break, and the receiver didn't do him any favors. Get your ass down the stem and finish, even if you catch it at 6 yards. But he gets that. That's why I'm a big believer in coaching hard and correcting hard during the good times, and putting your arm around him during times like this and say, dude, we're going to get better, because then you're not sensitive either way. But he was late when they won, so nobody said shit. And he's late when they lose, and everybody wants to know why. It's because he's late. Ball's not coming out on time. In professional football, this ain't high school. You can get away with it. But professional football, if you're late to windows, those guys are too good. And I'll tell you what, his division's loaded. The Eagles, the 49ers, if Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts are late throwing the ball this week, they will pay for it. I assure you.
That's who Dak Prescott is. That's who he has been. All right, let's now talk about the 49ers. I mean, we knew they were good. Their defense was championship caliber. Their offense, Purdy, I thought, was very good in that situation. I mean, he did what he had to do. I mean, he was very efficient. He didn't make any mistakes, Sean. Playoff football to me is about minimizing your mistakes. The Niners didn't make any mistakes on offense. I mean, obviously they had the turnover on the punt, but that's, but I mean, they're just really good. I don't know if they're good enough to beat Philadelphia. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but this is a damn good team.
Grant, look at the results. Did Mahomes throw a pick? He didn't, right?
There you go.
Did Burrow throw a pick?
No.
He did not. Did Hurts throw the ball or fumble? He did not. And did Purdy?
Yeah.
Did Dak? He did. Did Trevor Lawrence? He did. Did Josh Allen? He did. And and who did I miss out on? Oh, Daniel Jones.
Right.
So my point is that it's sometimes, we're always concerned about what a guy, sometimes it's what you don't do that allows you to move on. And one of our talked about, Riley Rue said, Rivers took the Chargers to a conference champion. Yes, he did, but he didn't get to a Super Bowl is my point. We were talking about Super Bowls, not championships. So, so Grant, you're right. So going in, listen, all four of these quarterbacks, for one way or another, have made the plays at the right time. And so we're checking DNA and you check mechanics and all these things. But here's the one thing I know. When the shit starts to go crazy, Mahomes finds a way. Yep. Burrow's obviously. Joe's the best in-pocket passer, pure quarterback in the league. Mahomes is the best at getting out of the pocket. Mahomes is the best. How can I put this? Like, trying to think, like, when you think about frontmen and bands, one's a singer and it's a like Michael Jackson, killing it on stage, Prince, or one of those, and down, plays his guitar, has pipes galore. One's Burrow, one's Mahomes. So you get my point. What I'm saying, they're both the best, but one probably a little more is more comfortable there, and the other off schedule doing stuff that you just can't teach. So, but we got two great ones. But the other guys, you turn it over in these games,
it's a good point, Sean.
You go home. It's a fact.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other games. We covered that game, and we'll get to the conference championship games in a minute. All right, so you talk about Joe Burrow and what he did with Cincinnati and Buffalo. You and I both have liked Cincinnati for many, many weeks right now, and they're in a great position with Mahomes' high ankle sprain, and we'll get to that in a moment. But the Bengals, they don't have any issues playing on the road and winning a big game, Sean. We saw it yesterday or last year. If you can go into Kansas City and win an AFC championship game, you can go anywhere and win. That was just a really impressive performance by the Bengals.
Sure was. And Grant, have you noticed about them since Burrow's? It's amazing when people say, how do you change a franchise? Kansas City's changed when Andy and Mahomes got together. I'm not talking about they haven't won in the past. I'm talking about in recent, changed overnight. Literally, they got together and boom, look, Cincinnati. And when are we going to start talking about Zach Taylor as one? We got Kyle Shanahan and we got Sean McVay and we got all the and rightfully so. But why are we blowing off this guy who has got two phenomenal coordinators? Has turned a franchise around that was horseshit for the longest time. Great fans, but they were kept coming. I mean, they'd get to a couple they get to a playoff game, wouldn't win. When I say horseshit, that's not fair. They weren't getting close to Super Bowls.
You're
Marvin
right.
Lewis did a good job. They were cheap in the scouting department. You know what I'm saying?
And they were undisciplined. They were an undisciplined football team.
Right. And a front office that kind of went on the cheap. And players didn't get paid like they should have. All those things. Boomer Esiason, they were damn good, and Kenny Anderson. But in recent memory, well, look at the culture change. Coach, quarterback, commitment to scouting department. Go get Jamar Chase. Bam, 3 or 4 players and a quarterback and a coach. And I'm going to tell you that the most underrated part of this, and it happened in Buffalo, the most underrated thing of these 4 teams in these Final Four is the Cincinnati Bengals defense. We talk, everybody's talking about all these great defense, and rightfully so. Philly and San Francisco, you better, if you got a faint of heart, don't watch that game because they're physical and nasty. Mm-hmm. Kansas City, Chris Jones will get out. Cincinnati's is underrated, and their offensive line kicked ass. They dominated the front 7 of Buffalo.
With backups at 3 positions, Sean.
On the road in a snowstorm. Here's what there's a mindset with some teams. Do I think Cincinnati can go in and win again in Kansas City? You're damn right I do, because I'm concerned about the mobility of Pat Mahomes. Do I think Kansas City can win if Mahomes is 80%? Sure. But they know how to play him. They know how to game plan him. And you need Mahomes at 100 because Burrow, they're shoulder to shoulder. These 2 dudes are so good. But there's a mindset that goes on. Whenever I watch Burrow or Mahomes play on the road, forget at home, we know that. It's like they utilize it like, I don't really care, man. They treat it as if they're walking into their own living room. Road team when Kansas City's on the road. And Cincinnati, I'll put Cincinnati's road team, whatever it is that they got, and I don't know what it is, or I bottle it up and sell it. And maybe it just starts with the quarterback who's basically gives the world the middle finger without doing it because he's got 2 15-pound bowling balls dangling down to his ankles when he plays. So these are the 4 best teams in the NFL. Yeah. And I'm talking about where they were ranked or who was the number 1 seed. I'm talking about the way they're playing. You got the 4 best teams in the championship weekend.
All right. So you've got Kansas City who won, but don't tell me that this is not going to impact the game, the injury to Patrick Mahomes. It's a high ankle sprain. Okay. It's going to impact the game. I think Cincinnati is going to win the game. I'm picking the Bengals already to go in and beat Kansas City. I don't know if you've ever dealt with a high ankle sprain, but this is something that is going to get worse as the game goes on. This is going to be an issue. I think it's going to be a big issue for the Kansas City Chiefs. I really do.
Yeah, and I'm not guessing here, Grant. My sophomore year, we were going, and Elway's senior year, going to Stanford. And we had a week in between. I had a high ankle sprain. It was bad. I taped it. I mean, every 2 hours was getting treatment on it because we're getting ready to play Elway at Stanford, but hell, I wanted to beat Elway, right? As my sophomore year, and I kept, every friggin' day, man. Every friggin' day. And high ankle sprain, taped it up. And then they taped it up and went into the game. But I was a little, at that point in time, I hadn't shredded my knee yet. And so I was pretty damn mobile, could move. But in that game, it limited it a little bit. It was my back leg, just like his. It was my plant foot. Now, I ended up playing, adrenaline got going. You do whatever you got to do before to get it going. And so I was able to get through and we won, and I played a great game that day. But my mind, it was just kind of relaxed. But the truth is, and then after the game, I got to get back to the training room. So I can speak to it now. Mahomes far better. We're going to move around a lot of things, but as many times as he has got to move and throw off balance, there's going to be times he's going to have to put that foot in the ground. So we'll see. It's when they say it's close to 100%, that means what, 85%, and he's better than 90% of that when he's like that. So I do believe it's going to be hard in a week. If they were a bye week this week, Grant, 2 weeks, different story. I think it's going to have an effect on the game. And if you're putting a game plan in, you got to put in one for pocket, force him east and west and north and south. But you're going to try to put Mahomes in off balance. He can do a great job of it, but a couple of those, if you get tipped interceptions, you can change the game. So I do believe, and I am concerned about it, and I would imagine the Kansas City Chiefs are too.
Listen, this is not even disputable. This is not debatable. Is going to limit what he does so well in terms of eluding pressure. He is not going to be able to escape the way he normally does. There's going to be a play or two or three that you look at in the upcoming game that say, gee, a healthy Mahomes would have been able to elude that and make the play. That's bound to happen. And in a game of this magnitude, I just think that's going to be the difference in the game. I really do.
And Grant, I can tell you this, because it's the back plant foot,
right?
It doesn't matter. When you drop back, we put that in the ground. The first move you usually make is with your back foot. So that's the one you say. You don't jump onto your front foot, hop into it and make your move, the explosive move. And it's the quick twitch. All of a sudden, boom, they pressure in an A-gap blitz and you got to slide step right and put your foot in the ground. It's like, damn, can't quite get to it as urgent, which is the difference in stepping through an arm tackle, which he always does, or somebody gripping him and then somebody coming and either knocking the ball out. Now, I know he'll play well, but I'm telling you, it's 6 to 8 plays. And this ankle is huge if it's not fully healthy.
All right, so we talk about Kansas City. We know they're good. I'll tell you, if I'm game planning against Kansas City, I'm going in there and I'm saying one thing. I'm trying to do everything I can to neutralize Travis Kelce. Does this guy ever play a football game where he's not a huge part of the success? The guy's unbelievable to me.
Let me tell you something. I don't get – he's phenomenal. Zone, man, it doesn't matter. Grant, listen, coaching obviously matters. I mean, that's a Captain Obvious statement, right? But let me ask you something. Going into this game, if you for instance, when Wink Martindale went into the Viking game, Justin Jefferson didn't beat me.
Right.
I know Kelce's phenomenal, 14 catches, with the guys. Matter of fact, he's starting to make the argument of the greatest receiving tight end of all time.
Yes, he is.
He is making that argument now, and his route running is so. He has such a great feel in zone and man, how to push off right without getting called and using the forearm, and how to sit and move in holes. When he overruns, he slides back the other way because he knows Mahomes can sidearm him. But Grant, I don't understand this. When you go into a game of this magnitude, and going into the game, now I give Jacksonville a lot of credit, and I hate the phrase house money, but I guess that's I mean, you never know if you'll ever get back. Screw house money, you want to win it.
Yep.
But how do you go into a game and not say, listen, if they throw the ball outside to Juju Smith-Schuster and everybody else and they catch 200 yards worth, God bless them. How in the world do you go into a game? I would put a physical linebacker and a strong safety, and I would in and out him. You know how we play the guys on the outside wide receiver on the punt?
Yes.
They drive him into the sides. There's a guy inside. Sometimes there's two, sometimes there's one.
Right.
I would literally, and I know they'll motion him and move him, but it's almost like a boxing two, right? Like we play the boxing one in basketball.
Right.
How do you let him do whatever he friggin' wants to do? We saw it last year in the playoffs when they beat Buffalo late. Remember when he came back and ran the seam and you're like, I don't understand how you go in and it's like, it's like letting Barry Bonds put it on a tee when he's hitting 73 home runs. What are you doing? Clutch grab. I'd have rather had 5 holding penalties on Kelce than I would have 14 catches and 9 of them for it is you cannot let him beat you this week. You just can't. Mahomes and Burrow will get theirs, but fuck, can somebody tackle him? Take the penalty. Quit. Shawnee he can probably beat a referee too, but good gracious. I'll tackle him like we used to play in the park. Guy run by, just tackle him by then. No, I'll take the penalty. I'm not letting him beat me. Yet he'll go catch 2 touchdowns and I'll be pissing myself thinking, how? It's crazy.
All right. Then there's the Eagles. They just overmatched the Giants in every single capacity. I was afraid that could happen. I thought the Giants might be able to make a game. I didn't really have a lot of confidence that they could go into Philadelphia and win. But Philadelphia is who we thought they were. I mean, They're really good. When they have Jalen Hurts playing the way he played for most of the season, he did not look like he was bothered at all by his injury. That offensive line, I mean, Kelce at center is the most unbelievable blocker I've ever seen at that position. He really is that good. You have Johnson, who looked good at right tackle, but defensively, they don't let you breathe. This Philadelphia team is damn good.
And you're going to see so much pressure. They had 70 sacks this year. Like 63 of them are from guys with their hand in the dirt.
It's unbelievable.
Think about that. It is.
It's unbelievable.
And with Jonathan Gannon, their D coordinator, and D'Amico Ryans in San Francisco, it's going to feel to both quarterbacks. Now, they're both really good. Like 15 cats are on the field on defense. I mean, their dudes are flying around, hitting this blitz. This guy blocks them. Another guy comes, and they run, and they're explosive. And Grant, I'm telling you right now, find me a weakness on the Philadelphia football team. Find me one.
They don't have one.
Anywhere.
They don't have one.
They're coaching, sure. Hell, Steichen's getting interviewed as the offensive coordinator, made Jalen Hurts better. Look at that offense. They got weapons. The defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, is going to get a job soon. And they got a head coach, Sirianni, who people laughed at a little bit at his opening press conference when he got the job. Who's laughing now? That dude's got these guys flying around. I'm telling you, I want to say take the under in the game. Yet Hurts and who the hell knows with all the weapons, if you're going to play man and pressure and they get the ball out, you miss Purdy, but if you miss Hurts, he runs for 40. Grant, they ran the ball 44 times. And I looked at the numbers. You know how I've mentioned this before. It's not usually the yards, it's the carries. It's the number of carries that usually dictates wins. You know what the number of carries was this weekend in all four of these games? You know who won the running back carry battle? Even in the Kansas City game, who do you think won? All four winners had more attempts than the losers. Well, Sean, that's what happens when you get ahead. Bullshit. Kansas City will throw 4 straight times in a row on first down. So it's just, and that was that. Now, if Kyle rushed 34, 35 times, if I'm going to tell you what, well, if the Eagles rush 44 times in the next 2 games, they're going to win the Super Bowl. If they can get to that many carries in the game, because they're not going to give you a lot of leeway defensively. They're just not.
They're not
filthy. Nope.
They are. They are really, really good. And so I'm looking at this game coming up. I love this game. I love great defense. And both these teams have not good defenses. Both of these defenses are great. I love that. I absolutely love that style of football. So let's talk a little bit about this matchup with San Francisco and Philadelphia. I'll tell you this, Sean. I think special teams this is a special teams type of a game. Do not miss a field goal because there are going to be field goal opportunities in this game. Do not miss field goals. Robbie Gould was gold, all right? Do not miss field goals in this game, and you can't muff a punt or anything like that. That's right. This special teams is going to be so key in this game on Sunday.
Yeah, and Grant, that you say you can't miss field goals, and you don't want to kick field goals, but you cannot cross the 40 and not come away with points. And if you do it twice and the other team scores 2 touchdowns, you may not catch back up because both defenses are that good. And Benjamin talked about the Eagles' weakness is run defense is 21st. I don't think it's a weakness. I've watched them, and I think it's misleading because I'm going to tell you this. What do the 49ers want to do? They want to run it. I think the way they've played in games this year, I think that's a very misleading stat because I can tell you this. I know for a fact with their run game blitzes and stuff, and the 49ers know it too now. The 49ers are going to try to challenge it, and Jonathan Gannon and the Eagles know this. So you watch. I don't think they're going to look like the 21st run defense this week. So the stat says so, but they're better than that number says it. It is, and they get after it. I know they're stuck on sacks, so they're going to give a little leeway they can. And they also know discipline is going to be important because McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel will gash you if you don't. So while it's a perceived weakness with the number, I think Philadelphia's defense is better than that. So for me, Grant, like I said, there is matchups galore. It's going to come down to, does a quarterback make a coach make a game management decision wrong? Does somebody get a tip ball, strip sack, fumble? Because this game could be 17-13, 21-17, and every possession is going to be as precious as it gets. Like I said, I'm trying to find weaknesses. Hell, even a rookie quarterback for the 49ers is not a weakness. Both teams are loaded on both sides of the ball, and they're both well coached. And we're going to find out not who the strength is, which team can find the one weakness, if there's going to be one in the game, that they can try to exploit it 2 or 3 quarters, because to do it 4 quarters, very few teams have been able to sustain it offensively against these two teams.
I'll tell you one thing, whoever wins the coin toss is going to defer. Both coaches would love to have their defense out there to get a 3 and out and get good field position. I can tell you that.
That's right.
You know?
Don't blame them either. That's right.
This is going to be a hell of a game. All right, AFC Championship game. I think Cincinnati wins even if Patrick Mahomes is healthy. I think they have their number. I think they know they can go in there and win. They've done it in the past, including last year in the AFC Championship game. Burrow's playing at too high of a level. I just think Cincinnati wins this game.
I know this. This is not to any. I want to go to the game, Grant. I'm not going to, but I want to go to Kansas City and watch. I think it's going to be a fantastic atmosphere, and we know that. But I can tell you this, and I don't think the Cincinnati Bengals are okay with just getting to the AFC Championship game. I don't. I think they're now primed with their mindset is shifted to, if it's not a Super Bowl. And remember now, this is 5 straight AFC champ. Chiefs do get beat. You're going to hear some of those whispers too about why only one Super Bowl. You know what? You're going to hear them whether we want to buy into them or not. I like Cincinnati in the game too, Grant. Like I said, from week 9, remember you asked me, Sean, who in the AFC do you like? And we were like around game 8 or 9.
Yep.
I said in the AFC,
said Cincinnati.
When all is said and done, are going to be hanging around with a chance to win this whole thing.
Yep.
I like them too. I just think there's something about him. And Grant, I went through the league today thinking about, okay, who's got the best weapons in the league player for player on offense? Cincinnati. Who's better? Who's better? I'm talking about the depth of it, and 3 receivers, their tight ends, Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine, and a great quarterback. Who's better? The Chiefs don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, although they're great and they show. I'm talking about the depth of their roster offensively on the perimeter. Hey, Philadelphia's got Pro Bowl running back, a quarterback. I'd take Burrow over Hurts. And you got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I mean, you're going back and forth. It's the 3rd receiver that separates them in Cincinnati. You get my point? So if you're going through it, who's got more weapons than their offensive perimeter people? So you got to defend the entire friggin' field. And if you decide to play pass, P. Ryan and Joe Mixon will destroy you in the run game.
Yep.
So, and we know this, and Andy Reid, he will. I love Andy's guts and all the things he does. We're in for one hell of a game. I don't believe either game is won by more than a touchdown. Either game.
All right. It's unlikely that both road teams will win. So I'm not putting words in your mouth. Do you think Philadelphia edges San Francisco?
I think right now Philadelphia should have the advantage and will have the advantage, and they're at home. But I'm not sure that I wouldn't parlay in a betting thing the 2 underdogs on the road. I don't even know Cincinnati's an underdog because the injury, but I haven't looked with +1 or -1 right in there. I almost feel like we're going back to, what was it, Boomer Esiason in Montana, the Bengals, and it was that Super Bowl. And Philadelphia, listen, I'm not sure Philadelphia as a whole isn't the best. I mean, their record says it, but that time off for Jalen Hurts didn't affect them a bit. But maybe it's because I just like the way the 49ers have played for 11 games. But when it gets right down to it, if I was a deep bet man, I'd go Philly, Cincinnati in the Super Bowl. But if anybody thinks that the 49ers don't have a chance because they got a rookie quarterback, you ain't been watching football. It's going to be – I think both of them are last possession, late 4th quarter wins for whoever takes care of their business. I'm more comfortable. It's weird. I'm more comfortable picking Cincinnati than I am San Francisco.
I'm going to ask you something that I've never broached with you before, because you were on the national stage in TV as a former athlete. And although it was in a studio format, I mean, you knocked that out of the park. You killed it. I just can't stand listening to Tony Romo. To me, he upsets me to a point where I'm telling you, Sean, even the other day, I put the game on mute for 30 minutes, Sean. For 30 minutes, I muted the game and watched the game in silence. I think, to me, he takes the enjoyment away from me. This is just me speaking. Where are you with Tony Romo when you watched him in Jim Nantz?
I love Tony as a person. I've known him for a long time. I haven't talked to him much in handfuls of years. But I feel like when he came into broadcasting, he came in feeling like he drafted free agent football. He fought and scratched and became a great football player. He was a hell of a quarterback. Just didn't get to the big one. And quite frankly, It's 27 years since the Cowboys been to a Super Bowl
Yeah.
after Aikman that didn't either. That's one. Grant, I felt when he got into broadcasting, he went in there and his preparation, his energy, even if at times it was cheesy, right? You thought, I got to respect a guy who feels like he loves it that much. And he did. Like, he ramped up some energy in the building. Listen, there was times I was like, come on, dude, dial it down. But I'd rather have a guy I got to say dial it down than a guy say pick it up. I feel like this year, he's a big money guy. He's the man. He's got a lot going on. I almost feel like that he's gotten so comfortable in his role that he's not approaching it the same way he did. I know he's smart. He knows football, but something's missing from the guy the energetic, grab you around the throat, tell you, I mean, I'm not even talking about the predicting of the plays, but the broadcast felt bigger when he was doing it like he was fighting and scratching to prove to the world he belonged as the number one guy. For my money, and I'm a big Aikman guy because he's understated, but he also can be opinionated. I'm going to tell you right now, Greg Olson is as good as we have calling games on television as an analyst.
He's very good.
He is energetic without overpowering the broadcast. Right. It's never about him. He teaches. We got good ones. We're almost fine. But Tony needs to get back and act like he is still trying to impress the executives at CBS, because when he did, his energy. For my money, listen, Tom Brady better be awfully good when he goes in, because when Greg Olson goes to the number 2 team, I'd stand in line to make him my number 1 guy. I think he's outstanding. I really do. Well said. Sean, enjoy the rest of your day, my friend. Thank you very much. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you. And thanks to everybody for being a part of it. All right, Sean Salisbury, great stuff right there. We are brought to you by New Works Plumbing of Sacramento, locally owned for over 20 years. New Works has a fix for you. For your plumbing needs and repairs, just go to SacServicePlumbing.com or call the number on your screen. Remember, New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Ryan in Sacktown, how are you, sir? We got Kings basketball tonight against the Grizz. How's everything going?
Everything's going great, Grant. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Memphis played last night. They were down big. They came roaring back, but they lost by 2. The good news for Sacramento is Memphis's starters all played 30-plus minutes except for 1. So let's see if the Kings can capitalize on that tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, Grant. Ja Morant and Adams are both listed as questionable on the injury report, and I question whether they may not play tonight. They're in the midst of a 5-game and 7-night streak. Yeah. And they've got a national game against the Lakers. But if they do play, yes, they're going to have some tired legs. But Memphis is the real deal, top to bottom.
You know, it's unbelievable about how many players now are showing up on the injury report, of questionable or this or that because of 5 games in 7 nights or 3 games in 4 nights, whatever the case may be. I think it's becoming more and more of an issue in the league. I really do. I'm seeing it more than I remember. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. At least the stars, Grant. That's for sure. Yeah. I mean, we're seeing almost every game. A big player for each team has somebody listed. So.
Yeah, and again, if Morant and Adams don't play, this is not the same as Embiid and Harden not playing. If you take Morant and Adams off the floor, Memphis does just not have enough to compete. And I mean that. If they take Ja Morant and Steven Adams off the floor because they're going to rest them, then I think I think the Kings bench would win this game. I really do. No disrespect to the other members of Memphis. Without Morant, they've proven that they can play very well. I just don't know if they can play that well without Steven Adams, who is a rebounding physical machine.
Yeah, the last 2 games against Memphis, both losses for the Kings. Steven Adams had 16 rebounds and 23, respectively. He is a Kings killer. So that would be a huge loss for them. But yeah, I think the Kings should win this game if both of them were not to play. But yeah, the Kings, they've got to play against themselves first off. But either way, Memphis is very talented, even without both those guys. So,
all right. So this also is a tiebreaker game. Okay. Memphis has won 2 of the first 3. So, if Memphis wins tonight, should the Kings and Grizzlies end up tied, then Memphis will win the tiebreaker. We can start talking about these things now because the Kings are 3rd in the West. These are important things to be thinking about. So that's another aspect of this game tonight.
No doubt, Grant. And Memphis still at 2. They won 11 of 13 games. So it doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. So that's a great point that you bring up, because as the 3 seed, we very may will be looking at a tiebreaker situation with Memphis or somebody else in that range.
All right. Ryan and I are going to be on at halftime, and then we'll be on after the game. The game tonight is starting a half hour later than normal. Keep that in mind. So we will be coming on at intermission, probably in the neighborhood of 8:30, and then probably again in the neighborhood of about 9:45. All right. I'm giving you approximate times, but we'll be on at halftime, and we will be on after the game. So what do you think, Ryan? I again, if Morant and Adams don't play, I can't see the Kings losing this game. I really can't, especially because of the way they lost the last game.
Yeah, Grant, I would like to think the same as you, but you just don't know. We thought the same thing with Embiid and Harden not playing, right? So sometimes the Kings rise to the level of their competition. So part of me says, hey, I hope they do play, because the Kings may come out and play better, just like they did against the Thunder. Ultimately, I think they play, and I think it's going to be a tight game. We're going to see another one possession nail biter at the end.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you at halftime.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
All right, Ryan in Sacktown joining us right here. Also want to say thank you for Bennett's 2 locations, Roseville at Lead Hill and Eureka, and Fair Oaks and Howe. Their menu is great. Their food, I love it. I go there quite often when I'm in town. I love their steaks. They got prime cuts, whether it's Porterhouse, New York, hanger steak. I mean, they have it all, bone-in prime rib. It's great. You'll love Bennett's. Again, 2 locations, Roseville and Sacramento. They're actually going to be opening up in this spring at the coming, to the Blue Oak Town Center in Rockland. So they're expanding. Also, they're big Kings fans. Make sure you get to Bennett's. You'll be glad that you did. Bennett's, Roseville, Sacramento, and soon to come in Rockland. All right, we'll see you at halftime. Can't wait. Right here on If You Don't Like That with Grant Napier. So long, everybody.